today, the project that we've got on the docket is replacing this guy. It is an eyesore, and it's probably one of the first things that I had considered replacing, but I wasn't comfortable messing with this thing. As you can see, it's in pretty bad shape. It doesn't even have a latch. It's shut on its own, and it's a really big liability because this thing goes, obviously it's gonna leak into the RV, and all the work that we've done so far will be messed up. So we are going to, I'm gonna swap this thing out today. So let's get to it. So this is the underside of the fan that I'm replacing. It's been broken ever since we bought it. It's been like tied shut. And just gonna make sure these wires match up. It's my one worry, is that somehow the wiring's not gonna quite match up with this new one. But let's go give it a check. So this old school fan, exhaust fan, is going to be replaced with this new school guy. It's called a Max Fan Deluxe. I really don't know anything about it other than it looks nice. So I bought it at my local Camping World, and it was one of the nicer models that were there. So we got the model 6500K with a smoke cover. So that should give us a lot of things that this one didn't normally have. So a little bit more controls, a thermostat, and a remote control, which I'm looking forward to. And it has a rain fan, a rain shield, so that even if it rains, then we don't have to close this. So I'm assuming that's going to be a big, a nice thing to have in this old RV when it's raining. We can keep that exhaust going through. So let's get to the setup and see how it starts out. So this is what she looks like when you open the box. There's the instructions and a hardware kit here, and then the actual device. That's big, not much, just that's really it for the instructions and the hardware. Looks like the remote, and then the actual exhaust fan. So let's pull this out. So it comes with the apron here that will cover up the opening from below. And then this is the actual fan itself. So as I just mentioned, I want to double check that the electrical connections will actually work on this, because if they don't, then I'm going to take it back, because there's honestly no point in me having it. So let's look for the wiring and the connections. My hope is that everything will be pretty smooth. Let's see here. Okay, so there's another piece that comes off. Forgive me for not having this all worked out, but I am literally doing this on the fly and trying not to break anything. So we have a black wire and a white wire, and so we should be good with that. I'm not an electrician, so I'm a little worried, but I think we'll be okay. And one other thing that's really important is make sure you measure this thing so that you get the right opening. 14 by 14 is the standard opening. That's what we have here, and that's what this fits. But always double check just to make sure that 14 by 14 is what you're going to need. Kind of important. So here is the black wire that we'll be connecting to. This comes from the house side of things, and there's the white wire as well. So all we have is a black and a white, so it looks like this is going to be compatible. So that's good. So let's go ahead and get this thing out. It's covered with die core, so we're going to need to peel the die core off, and then hopefully there will be screws underneath to remove this. If you think back, look back at an earlier video when we actually did this cover, there were no screws. So I don't know what to expect here. It could be the same thing where they just glued it down, but let's uncover it and see what we've got to work with here. So with this die core, you just want to be careful. Use something with a firm edge like this scraper here. But you just want to kind of cover underneath, break this bond, and just work your way around. Nothing too crazy. If the resistance is ridiculously difficult, just be careful. You don't want to ruin your roof. But you just want to kind of break through, and you can feel when you release it all. Just slow and steady progress wins the race here. So if you pry one of these up, there is at least one screw in here, and it looks to be in fairly decent shape, but it's a Phillips head, so I have to get that out of there. But basically, the easy way to do this is to just pull this die core off in pieces, unscrew it, and then we'll clean this area up afterwards. So let's just go ahead and get to each of these screws and work on it. Here's the first one I've seen that's bad. So the screw is actually completely rusted out. Most of these at least look good from the top, but obviously water got in underneath this die core and rusted that out. So we'll be good to get that out, get something new put in. Removing them is this simple. They're fairly short and they come out pretty easy. So do this about, I don't know, 25, 30 more times, and then you're done. All right, so all of the screws are out, and now we're just gonna pry her up. Let's see what she looks like underneath. So go gently here so that you don't ruin your beautiful roof and have to do a lot more work. I've got one screw that's stuck in here. This one was a little bit, this area here was a little rusty. Almost every screw that I took out here had some rust underneath of it. So I'm gonna try to, let me put this down real quick and be right back. Yeah, so see, here's another rusted out screw here. So this corner here must have had some water damage. Sorry for the bad filming here, but I'd like to see what it looks like under there. But yeah, you just pop this up and boom, that's simple. So there was no tape underneath or anything like that, just die core on top. So now what we're gonna wanna do is try to clean this area up as good as possible and inspect for any damage. So there is some delamination here where the water got in. It goes kind of all the way around, but it's really only focused on the back because as you can see right here, it stops, there isn't any. So if there was any water damage, it's not the end of the world. Nothing that a good seal won't fix. So let's start cleaning this area up. This is gonna take a little bit of work to get this done, but the secret weapon for this is mineral spirits. So let's see what we can do with some mineral spirits to make this cleanup a little bit easier. So let me just show you a little tip here with this. So this is without mineral spirits, and it's really hard to get up. Even when you get to a little thin layer, it's hard to get that up there. A lot of elbow grease. This area here has been treated with some mineral spirits, and once you let it sit for a minute or so, it starts to break free and allows this the stickiness to release a little bit. It's still hard work. It's not easy in any way, but it does come up a little bit easier with mineral spirits. So I'm gonna take some time, clean this off, and I'll be back as soon as I get it nice and clean. So after about 20 minutes of scraping, this is what I've got. It's not perfect. I'm still gonna clean up a little bit more, but the majority of this caulk is off. I mean, it comes off in tiny little thin pieces like this, but you wanna get all that old caulk or die core or whatever it is that they use off. And then you wanna clean this to get a nice clean surface here to seal this down. So I took a product called 30-second outdoor cleaner, mixed it with some water, and put it in a spray bottle here, and I'm just gonna clean this area really well. And if you've never used this before, this is what I use when I clean the roof. You can see that video, I'll put a link to it, just how I clean this roof with this product, and it's just absolutely amazing for breaking up this grime. But as you can just see, just a little bit of elbow grease, and this stuff comes right up. The tricky part is now gonna be like kind of giving it a rinse and not getting my entire RV wet on the inside. But as you can see here, if I was able to just hose that down, it would be clean as a whistle. You can see it react as soon as you put it on there. It just turns super dark. And whatever this mold or whatever it is that's on here, I mean, you give it a second and it just comes out super clean. If I could just rinse that off, you would see it. It's amazing. So I'm gonna clean this area where I'm gonna be gluing it down, or not gluing it, but sealing it, so that the sealant gets a nice tight bond. All right, so let me finish this and I'll be back again. So the area is now nice and clean, as you can see. And I think we're good to start putting down some sealant. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit and then we'll be right back and start laying some Dicor. So with my particular model here, there is a bracket that kind of goes on first. So with mine, and again, you want to make sure you're using the same kind of same model, same everything, but this bracket is what goes on first. And then these side screws here actually screw into the actual fan here. So what we're going to do is lay a nice bead of Dicor down on this inside. So I'm using the self-leveling white lap sealant made by Dicor, and that's what we're going to use on this roof here. Other people sometimes use silicone, or they use caulk, and I don't recommend that because it's not as good in this intense sunlight and heat. So I have several other videos where I have installed Dicor on the ceiling of this RV, but you just basically want to put a nice bead down and work your way around the outside of this thing. So I'm gonna stop talking, make sure I don't mess with this stuff because it is incredibly sticky and I don't want to make a mess. So follow along. This stuff reminds me of marshmallow fluff. But basically you want to get a good bead under there so that when we flip this and lay it down, it seals it from underneath. We're going to lay more on top too, but this is a good start. And then when you put this on, you want to make sure, at least with this brand, that these metal brackets are on the side. They've got to be on the side of the RV and not facing forward or backwards. So let's go ahead and set this thing in place and see how she looks. All right. Fairly simple. You want to push it down until you kind of get a good connection here. Don't recommend filming while you do it, but if you must, it is possible. So again, as you screw this in, it's going to get even tighter, and that's going to be the next step, to screw her down. So this part's very simple. You're just going to take one of these screws and you're going to put it down into one of these holes. Very simple. And just go ahead and attach as usual all the way around. So let me get to it. I'll start screwing these things in. One recommendation is, I don't know if this came with stainless steel hardware or not. My guess is no. And honestly, if I had the time now, I'd run out and buy some stainless steel, because you're going to find that over time stainless steel is not going to rust like we had the problem earlier with those zinc covered ones. They rust, they're cheap, and eventually they wear out. But the hope is that by doing this Dicor right, there will be no way to have rust. But so get stainless steel if you can. If not, the ones they supply are probably going to be fine. But let me just go ahead and get these things in. So you want to stick it down right where all the goop is coming out, ideally. And it looks like these are stainless steel because they are not magnetizing to my bit there. So that's good. And then you just want to lightly screw it in. There's not a whole lot for this thing to catch on to. Again, I don't recommend doing this one-handed. This is making it very awkward, but the sacrifices we make, right, for YouTube. So just kind of put her down in there, nice and slow. You don't want to overdo it and strip anything. But just something like that is good. We're going to, again, cover that up with Dicor in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and put these things in, and I'll be back when I get all of these screws in place for the next step. One thing I failed to mention, there are actually 3 types of screws that come with this enclosure here. There's a longer Phillips head screw that's stainless steel. that goes, is meant to be installed straight into the roof. Unfortunately, I don't have any to show you right now. But there's also this kind that has, if you hold it up next to it, it has a wider head. It's hard to see unless you have two of them in place, but I'm not pulling one out now. And it's a little bit shorter, and those go on this little side piece here to connect to this. And then there's also these screws that have a flat top and a white head on it, so that this can be screwed directly into the ceiling on the inside. But that's what these 3 screws are for with this particular brand. I did not know that at first and had to salvage a few out of the die core, and I have to clean them off before I put them in. But just so you know, that's what you need to do. So now let's get to installing the rest of this die core before I make a huge mess. So fortunately, I caught that screw thing before I did this, but this is kind of what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go over each screw head and give it a coat of die core, and this will keep the water out. And this is where the self-leveling part comes in. You know, right now it looks like a big gooey mess, but it will flatten out over time, sure. But you know, this is an area where nobody is probably ever going to see this except for your you know, RV dealer or mechanic. But still, try to do it as neat, or at least I'm going to do it. You can do whatever you want. I really don't care. But you just want to screw this, or squeeze this stuff on over each of these screws, and they will flatten out. And then after you have done that, now you're going to want to go around this edge here. I'm just going to film for a second, and then I'm going to do this and do it right. But you want to kind of cover this edge here so that when this part seals now, you've got a waterproof seal keeping the rain out. So let's go ahead and I'll get to that, and then we'll go on to the next step. So the die core is on. It took pretty much 1 full tube of this. So if you're planning, 1 tube is probably all you'll need, but I did buy 2 because I'm going to touch up some other areas on this on the roof of this RV while I'm up here. Definitely recommend you do that. If you live in Florida or Arizona or somewhere where the heat is really bad, I would do it once a year. But this will now settle down and form a nice little seal there, and keep any rain out. It does crack over time, so it's not a once in a lifetime thing. You're going to need to keep up with this and come up and touch it up every so often. And one more tip with the die core, mineral spirits cleans it up pretty well. That may be a question you're asking yourself right about now, because die core is incredibly messy and super sticky. So mineral spirits seems to work pretty well, but just a little tip from me. So now the next step is we're going to put this lid on. So the problem with this lid is we've got to get to those little holes there and down there, and they're on both sides. We've got to get to those, but as you can see, if you lay this thing flat, you can't get to it. So you're going to have to use this manual turner down here and open this thing up. So let me open this thing up for you, and we'll get to it. Let me see if I can do it while the camera is on. It's not that hard to turn, but as you turn it and open it, this part kind of comes out a little bit. So sorry for the cinematography here. It's not great, and an assistant would work well. Thank you for the comments. I've heard that before about getting an assistant. But nobody's willing to sit on the rooftop with me in 90-degree weather in the sun to just simply film. So it is what it is. Let me get this open. One more step before we put this thing on for good. The instructions say to do the electrical first. So you want to connect the whites to the white and the black to the black. Luckily, in my particular case here, I was able to save which one goes to which, where it looks like the black or the hot wire goes to the purple and the white wire goes to the green. So luckily for me, I was able to keep track of that. I'm going to cut these a little bit lower so that I have less extra wire on here. But let me go ahead and cut these off. You want to basically trim them using a tool like this. If you don't have anything like this electrical tool, you know, definitely you're going to need one. But you just want to trim off the excess here. Just cut below, pull off that little vinyl covering there and expose the wire a little bit. And then fortunately for me, the company gave these out as well. These are just little connector pieces that you can put right on the end, and then you just basically plug them in almost just like an outlet. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on. make this a little bit easier. So once you put the wire in there, you just want to crimp this edge. You just squeeze down, and then it basically forms a nice tight connection here. So as you can see here, it's crimped inside of here, and now it's tight. Pull on it, you don't want it to come off, so it's nice and tight. I'm going to do this to the black wire as well as the internal wires, and then let's connect this thing up, and recommend testing it first before you install it for good. So as you can see, they literally just plug into each other just like a plug. Get those in. Again, hard to do one-handed. So I will reattach that in a second. And then the next step is to just lower this thing onto this connector plate right here and then screw it in. So let's tuck these in together, connect these. Make sure you tuck the wires in again. You want to make sure those are in nice and safely. And there's a nice little place to hide it right here. All right, let's get the electric in now. So this basically fits right in and then sits down. And then the key is you want to make sure, I don't know if you can see here, you want to get the holes inside of here to line up. And that's where it's getting a little tougher than I thought. So this isn't quite settling down. I don't know if it's this rubber gasket that's holding it up or what, but I'm gonna have to push down a little bit. So again, forgive me for walking away for a minute, but I've got to solve this first. Once you get that to line up, then you can just screw her in and she's nice and tight, but I've got to get that hole to line up. So let me work on that. Once I figure it out, I'll come right back. So there's really no other way to say it other than you're kind of just gonna need to line it up, get your screwdriver ready. You don't want to push down too hard because this thing is, it's plastic. So what worked on the other side that I'm going to try over here, and again, sorry for the footage here, but basically you've just got to get a little bit of a gap there, get the screw ready, and put it in, and it will just kind of find its way in there. So I'm going to do that over here, and then we'll be good. So let's this last one, and then we'll be in. So again, you just push it down without destroying the plastic. This one's going to be a little tougher because there's really not much room here to get anything in. So it's going, and that's it. So now she's in from the top. There's nothing else to do on the roof other than peel off this layer, which my kids always say is so satisfying, and I must admit it really is. And it is so much nicer to have this thing up here than that ugly old one that was there. And now we can keep this up here in the rain and everything. So I'm really excited about that. So look at that. Looks good. I did not test the electric, even though I recommended doing so, just because I'm too lazy to climb off this roof. But if you've got a partner who can test it before you seal this thing into place, highly recommend you do so. But it looks nice and clean. We've got all this stuff kind of sealed up. So I'm gonna clean up here before I move on. And let's finish from the inside. All right, so let's see what we got here. Ooh, it's opening up. Oh, nice. Wow, I can feel the nice cold air coming in. Wires are all tucked in, and there's some manual controls. There's even a, what's that, hold to set temperature, so it just stays in one automatically. Oh, nice. So it automatically keeps it at a certain temperature. That's pretty cool. Oh, and it automatically knows to blow in or blow out. Very cool. All right, so that's good. It's working. That's probably the hardest step. So the next step now is going to be putting the little apron on that goes here and kind of covers up this ugly styrofoam that's up there. So let me show you kind of what I've started doing with that already. So this is the apron that goes in place, and as you can see, I've already cut it. So I apologize for not showing that part of this, but what you want to do And you're going to want to do it. It's different for every RV is going to be different. But you want to measure from this point here to the edge of your ceiling. And whatever that is, you want to add a 1/2 inch. And then you want to take that and measure here from the edge. So in my particular case, it was 2.5 inches. And then I added a 1/2 inch. And I was able to come to this spot here. So that gives it enough room to come up here and kind of sneak behind that edge there and give it a nice clean look. So let's go ahead and test that and see how it fits. We'll put it right into place here. I have not done this yet, so I hope it fits. Yeah, so that's kind of what it looks like. I'm going to need 2 hands to do it for real. So that's kind of what it'll look like when it's truly in place. It looks nice and clean. And very happy with that. All right, so let me use those 4 screws I talked about to screw this in place, and then we are almost done. All right, I've got 3 of them in. I'm gonna do the last one, and then this is gonna be a done project. So the key with this is you don't wanna go too far because you're really screwing into styrofoam. So don't try to tighten it too much, and then you'll be good. So all right, that's what we've got to work with here. Got a little remote that came with this. I don't know if there's somewhere to hook this up on a wall or not, but I will worry about that later. I am just happy to see that this thing is in place and it's working. That's pretty awesome. So that's good. A good project. Well done. So that's it for our episode on installing exhaust fans into your RV ceiling. It wasn't that hard. It was a little bit scary to tear open a hole in the roof. But overall, it's really not that hard if you get the right equipment and have the right tools in place. So pretty much you're going to need the die-core sealant, a razor blade to cut that open. And if everything goes well, it shouldn't be too hard of a project. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I believe in you. If you've made it this far, I thank you. And I want to let you know, if you don't know already, here at 10,000 Roads, we have lots of videos with content on how we have built this RV from the ground up, basically. Didn't actually build the RV, but we've pretty much torn everything out and rebuilt it again. This was a 1998 Itasca Sunflyer, and it was every bit of 20 years old. So we've done everything from you can get a little sneak peek back in our bedroom back there, what we've done for the kids. The kitchen here, our dining area, everything from the roof to even getting new tires. It's a little harder than I thought in an RV. So we are super excited to bring you this content, and we would love it if you could watch some of these videos. Please like them, please subscribe to our channel, and we'll be able to bring you more of these things in the future. Hopefully this will be one of the last renovation videos that we do. We're hoping to get this thing out on the road soon and enjoy some time with the family. But until then, thank you for watching. Please check out our other videos, and again, leave some comments below. We'd love to hear from you guys. So again, my name is Don. This is 10,000 Roads. Please like, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you soon. Thanks.